If you play games on the PC, you've no doubt come across a little digital distribution service called Steam. It's a pretty cool place, tons of games with tons of discounts, tons of communities, hell, you can even get your own game onto the platform if you want to. But, if you're a more cynical person who plays games on the PC, like I am, you've no doubt realized how much of a shithole Steam has become. Tons of terrible games, shady business practices, and embarrassingly bad quality control level, and more recently, security instabilities. And within that platform, thousands of shitty game developers have been bred, each one more devious than the last. And it's here today we will talk about, and maybe even rip apart, one of the most notorious Steam developers in the market. Today's twats are Digital Homicide, and they caused a
company controversy.
Digital Homicide. How I've wanted you to be on this show for so long. How I've wanted to take you by the balls and slam your body against the walls and whittle you down to the size of a dust mite so that your existence may never be felt again by mere mortals. You don't know who Digital Homicide is? Well, okay, but I'm glad that's the case. Digital Homicide has been stinking up the Steam market for the past year and a half, constantly showcasing what not to do when you're a game developer, as well as possessing some of the greatest incompetent logic known to man. They've also been trying to have a go at one person since the beginning of their tirade, but we'll get to that soon. For now, witness, in all its glory, the tale of Digital Homicide, one of the worst game developers on Steam. Digital Homicide consists of two brothers whom go by the name of James and Robert Ramin. Not much is known about these two in terms of backgrounds, and I'm not going to divulge any personal info besides their names, so moving on. The company started out rather silently, their first game on Steam being an early access online medieval first-person action RPG called Forsaken Uprising. As you can probably tell, it wasn't very good. However, despite the large negative feedback, DigiHom seemed quite calm and just moved on to their next project. 2 months after Forsaken Uprising had been released, DigiHom put out their second game on Halloween 2014. That game was The Slaughtering Grounds, an arena-style zombie FPS that was even worse than Forsaken Uprising. I've played the game myself on Even Games, check that channel out by the way if you please, and yeah, it is that bad. It's clunky, poorly programmed, hard to look at, and just not fun. The lack of original work on their part seemed to start sticking out more too. The blood effects had been taken from Google image search, the logo is someone else's artwork, and the music... Okay, I suppose that's original, but as a musician myself, this is not of any good quality whatsoever. Like with Forsaken Uprising, there was a ton of negative feedback towards The Slaughtering Grounds, but this time, Digital Homicide started doing what all terrible indie developers on Steam do. Deleting comments, threads, and banning users attacking their product, all in a relatively quiet fashion. They actually didn't respond to anything until a rather popular individual had covered The Slaughtering Grounds on their YouTube channel. That person being games critic Jim Sterling. Mr. Sterling wasn't too kind to the game in his video, and that triggered a huge raging response from Digital Homicide. They started by making a YouTube channel and subsequent video revolving around the title Review the Reviewer, in which they took Mr. Sterling's video and overlaid a bunch of text attacking him. Definitely strange, but hardly more mature than the usual fuck all criticism. In response, Mr. Sterling made a video of him commentating over the video that Digital Homicide made in response to Sterling's first video. Don't worry, it's not that hard to understand. This video was Sterling laughing over Digital Homicide's text overlays. And it was in that video which spouted one of his most popular catchphrases, "I'm Jim fucking Sterling's son." Shortly afterwards, Digital Homicide made a response to that response, which was a response to the first response, but this time it was just a bunch of text over a black background with them saying how they work hard at crafting their games and also help fund the independent market by buying Unity store asset. And that by criticizing these games, Mr. Sterling is hurting that market somehow. At this point though, it was far too late. Digital Homicide had been made a mockery of among the Steam community, and it's easy to think that this would be the last we'd hear from them. But it wasn't. A little bit after the videos occurred, Digital Homicide decided to extend their beef with Mr. Sterling by utilizing YouTube's wonderful copyright system and taking down the Slaughtering Grounds video, giving Mr. Sterling a strike on his channel. Such a procedure is popularly used to quash criticism of certain products, and is something that, despite YouTube taking steps in preventing it, still happens to this day. Most of the time the videos get reinstated within a couple weeks, but Digital Homicide had uniquely bold confidence in their quest and promised to bring Mr. Sterling to court over the whole incident. And you want to know the reason they gave for taking down the video? The description of the video stated the game was an absolute failure, but the video hadn't covered the full extent of the game, so they believed that description couldn't be used. Of course, that's only one of the reasons, but I feel that one best shows how incompetent and flat out fucked Digital Homicide's way of logic is. Regardless, Mr. Sterling countered the claim and now had to wait at least 2 weeks for either Digihom to take the lawsuit further or for the video to be reinstated. Not hard to guess which one of those happened. Digital Homicide, like a lot of people who abuse the copyright system, didn't have the balls to put their money where their mouths were, even though they still claimed to be in the right after the video returned. Despite their efforts to screw with Mr. Sterling, all they got was a tarnished reputation, straight out of the Steam dev gates if I may remind you, and non-stop ridicule from people across the community for quite a few months. Now this is where most people would give up and fuck off somewhere else. But the Ramin brothers, ladies and gentlemen, are not most people. For most of 2015, Digital Homicide continued making crap games, as well as lowering their prices for said games because no one would buy them. Such classics include the ironically named Temper Tantrum, another first-person RPG called Deadly Profits, a wildly confusing side-scrolling action thing called Medieval Mercs, and one game that never even made it past Steam Greenlight called Six Nights at Susie's, which... yeah. The more games they did, the more Mr. Sterling covered them, as he regularly does with a lot of Steam games, and this, in combination with a bunch of other things, resulted in him coining the term asset flip to describe Digihom's games. The term refers to a game using unchanged game assets, usually bought from an online store, that has little to no original work put in, or places these assets in a seemingly random fashion. Digital Homicide's games invoke that term immensely, going as far back to the Slaughtering Grounds, a London phone booth next to a USPS post box, a giant-ass airplane that looks like it's gonna tear the place apart, and a collection of zombies that don't look similar in any way, shape, or form. It's lazy, and it's shit. And it immediately destroys any artistic quality the games had. And if you were thinking they were done with Mr. Sterling, well, then you're just not thinking. During the summer, they attempted to shift the mockery onto him, and eventually conducted an interview with Mr. Sterling in which they attempted to discredit him through disingenuous means.
The very next video you do, you got a 3-foot fucking dildo on your shoulder. Quit being such a hypocrite. See, and you think it's funny.
Again, I'm just... I'm
think
sorry.
it's hilarious.
I apologise if I sound disrespectful. I'm just trying to pass the logic of your statement. I'm not sure what...
What is illogical?
I'm not sure what the weapon from Saints Row has to do with a game in which you're beating up the corpses of women.
You think that a 3-foot purple dildo on your shoulder is respectful to your women viewers?
It's fucking longer than 3 foot, mate.
I don't think I need to say anything further, do I? Soon, however, it seemed that Digihom had vanished, with their last known attempt at a game being Temper Tantrum 2 on Steam Greenlight, and good riddance, said many. Their antics and shitty games were not needed on Steam, though honestly there was nothing that could have been done but criticize and mock. However, this is not where the story ends. Oh, my dear friends, it only gets deeper. There were 3 games on Steam that had been put out in the span of 2 months shortly after Digihom's supposed disappearance. One was Devil's Share, a crap horror game, another was Galactic Hitman, a crap space FPS, and the last was Attrition Nuclear Domination, a crap strategy game. The first two were released by a studio called ECC Games, and the third was released by MicroStrategic Game Designs. While initially it seemed that these companies were just more crap devs putting out more crap games on the Steam, some digging from a few clever sleuths revealed that the games were, in fact, made by Digital Homicide, and these other companies were just random pseudonyms for the Ramin brothers' already shady development studio. Some more digging revealed a site called BundleBlitz, which also belonged to Digital Homicide, and showed they were trying to ship 10 games through Steam Greenlight, all under different studio names as well. 10, count 'em, 10 games. Let me remind you that they said they work hard on making games and that criticism of their products stifled their creativity. What creativity, may I ask, is found within these 10 games you tried to get on the Steam all at once? Oh, but it gets worse. Remember that ECC Games name Digihom tried to hide under? That would be a fine name if there weren't already another ECC Games out there, a Polish mobile development company who have been making games since 2010. This was accidental, sure, but it certainly doesn't help Digihom in their case, and only makes them more incompetent than they were before. Naturally, Mr. Sterling covered most of this stuff as well, and this time, Digital Homicide decided that they had had enough of him. So, one of the Ramin brothers called him up, because they have his personal info from that copyright strike shit, and proceeded to threaten Mr. Sterling with more legal action over his coverage of them. Now, naturally, you'd think this was another attempt to get his YouTube channel in bad standing, but actually, they targeted his website instead, thejimquisition.com. An article he posted there detailed Digihom's alter egos, and at one point he suggested Digihom took the artwork for Galactic Hitman from DeviantArt. Later, he had been told that the image was also available on Shutterstock, so he had corrected the article. Digihom, however, even though the article had been corrected, saw that as grounds for defamation, and decided they wanted to sue Mr. Sterling, with the case being heard in Arizona, where there's some law that makes all this possible. So yeah, it was another dumb lawsuit threat, but this time Digihom were serious about it, so they got real. Too bad it never happened, because of course it fucking didn't. After this, there were a few other incidents involving Mr. Sterling that at first seemed linked to Digital Homicide, but seemed to be the work of someone else, so nothing of note. And with that, the story has finally concluded. If anyone happens to still be watching, I'd like to show you something. This is a game I made in GameMaker. I did the artwork, the music, and programming too. The game is an auto-scrolling shooter where you kill zombies. Except the bullets come out of the same spot every time, the hit detection is way off, the scoring system is fucked, and the final boss looks like this. It's shit. And I'm aware of that. And yet, I didn't put it onto Steam Greenlight in an attempt to make a quick buck. I didn't put it on itch.io or Newgrounds or any other site that does that either, because making a shit, no-effort game and trying to sell it will not get me anywhere in this industry. Digital Homicide proves that. They are the embodiment of the scum developers on Steam, hell, maybe even the entire video game market. Their attempts to put up an insane amount of games with such low quality and the strange defensive behavior they've reacted with is something that no one can ever do and expect to be successful. It takes time and effort to make a quality game. Buying a bunch of assets for Unity or Unreal or whatever store you're buying them from, putting them together in a horrific mishmash and calling it a game does not work. And don't be surprised if your terrible game gets completely shat on should you attempt to put it onto a storefront either. Speaking of criticism, deleting negative feedback, banning users for said negative feedback, and going as far to take down videos featuring negative feedback of your product also does not work. If you want to make games, keep all of this in mind. Please, don't be Digital Homicide or any of the other slack-jawed Steam devs out there. Have the patience required for game development, and go for it. So as a final caveat to the Ramin brothers and their lovely history, you either get the fuck out of here, or take the time and effort to make a good game. Otherwise, I'm gonna assume that you never intended to develop games in the first place, and you're just two scammers who saw how easy it is to make games and the thousands of pricky dick idiots on Steam who'll buy anything to either spite someone, or they're just pricky dick idiots, and decided to go for it. And considering your recent activity, I doubt you'll take that warning seriously. So either way, you're screwed. Didn't really matter at all in the first place. You've already given your reputation a digital homicide. For crying out, one joke! What? I'm out of here.